Hi there, John Wilkinson and History Made Easier. A video that takes a look at the ways in which the Nazi Party kept the lid on opposition and stayed in control. So how the Nazis stayed in control and stayed in power. And I'm going to look at three different factors: propaganda, fear, and popular policies. And let me say right from the outset, I think it's impossible to reach a definitive conclusion as to just how far each of those factors was significant. They're impossible to measure. It would be impossible if we were looking at a regime today, and it's even more so in looking at a regime in history. But we shouldn't shy away from uncertainty. I think that is something I want to say that is very important too. We shouldn't allow uncertainty to unsettle us. It exists. And if you try to pretend it doesn't, your history will be weaker. If you reach considered conclusions backed by supportive evidence, you will do very well in your exam. Trust me on that. So don't shy away from uncertainty. Make it work for you. So let's take a look first at propaganda. And I begin here with the Nazis' declaration of a new dawn, a new start for Germany, a revitalized Germany, a Germany that promises much. It's going to be great. That's the message. And this is not so much a propaganda poster, because it's actually published by the Daimler-Benz organization. But it was published in order to celebrate jobs, and the Nazi Party were not going to shy away from it. So we can include it in our collection of propaganda posters and other material. The Nazis did make a lot of propaganda about delivering jobs. And this poster, although it's really a poster celebrating the racially pure German family protected by the state, represented there by the eagle shielding the family with its wings. That was its purpose. But I want us to look beyond that and look at, as I've posted here, look at the promise of the idyllic life that the Nazis are sending out with this poster. The German family protected by the father, protected by the German state, at peace with itself, as one. Life is going to be a lot more secure for Germans. And this poster as well, a propaganda poster for the People's Car, for the Volkswagen. But again, let's try and look beyond that, because there's a message here that goes wider and goes deeper too. The promise of more to come. Germans have been through a lot. Defeat in World War I, the armistice, the Treaty of Versailles, 1923. The Great Depression and the unemployment that came with all of that is now behind them. The good times are here and better times are coming. But then propaganda, I think, is at its most powerful when we look at events. And the Olympic Games was a huge propaganda coup for the Nazi Party. Germany is back. Germany is leading the world again. It's delivering the most modern, the most successful Olympic Games. A powerful, powerful propaganda coup for the Nazi Party. And here I show a couple of pictures of the Nuremberg rallies. And doesn't it demonstrate the size of the Nazi Party and the power of the Nazi Party on display here? No wonder the Nazis made a movie of the Nuremberg rally with the triumph of the will. Here is the party's power on display, but also a sense of order, a sense of discipline. And we should also add that it wasn't just the big annual rally at Nuremberg, but there were marches and rallies every week in tens of thousands of small towns, big cities, the length and breadth of Germany. This was going on all the time. And now we have what I think is the best display of propaganda by the Nazis. It really was a massive propaganda coup, thought out by the Nazis and carried out by the Nazis. The day of Potsdam, the day in which the Nazi Party and Hitler in person is seen in step with the traditional elite of Germany. Side by side, Hitler sits with President Hindenburg, the hero of World War I, the epitome, after the Kaiser, the epitome of traditional Germany and traditional German values. And here is the Nazi Party linking itself with those values, with that traditional elite. Hitler sitting there with his top hat and his tails, looking the statesman, looking like the man you can trust. And with the bottom picture, we don't often think of Hitler as being a humble person. But here he is at least displaying humility for Germans to see, bowing as he shakes hands with President Hindenburg. A powerful propaganda coup for the Nazi Party, the day of Potsdam. If you don't know too much about it, do a little bit of research on it. It will pay off for you. It really will. So, propaganda. But there was also fear. But I'd want to make a couple of points straight up when we look at fear. The first thing I would like to point out is that it's not the victims. They were removed from society and dealt with. It was those left behind who were left in fear. Fear that they might fall victim themselves to the Nazi Party. And it did exist, and I don't want to pretend otherwise. But the second point I would make is that I think the number of victims in Nazi Germany were actually not that great. And so I don't think fear was as big a factor as it was, for example, in Stalin's Russia or Mao's China. Yes, there were those who were opposed to the Nazis who would have lived in fear, but the majority of Germans did not oppose the Nazis. They would at best live with them if they delivered on their promises. And so I'm not convinced that fear was as big a factor as propaganda or popular policies. But if you were an active communist or an active socialist, you had reason to be feared, to fear the Nazis. And here we have a picture of communists being rounded up, and here we have a picture of communists and or socialists in the concentration camp. And the leadership was of both parties was very quickly rounded up and dealt with. And a British view, if you've taken the IGCSE course, you will probably know this cartoon from the Night of the Long Knives. The caption below it said, "They salute with both hands now," and the message is clear. I think what the British cartoonist is saying is that Hitler's message is, "Don't mess with me, or you'll pay the price. Look at the dead bodies behind him." So fear was a factor. But for me, I think popular policies is where we most find an explanation for why the Nazis were able to stay in control and stay in power. I remember a video I used to show when I first started teaching, and it included an interview with a German woman at some point after the war, not long after the war. And the interviewer asked her why Germans gave up their freedom. Why did they allow the Nazi Party to ban all other parties, to ban free trade unions? And she turned round to the interviewer and said, "Well, look, before Hitler, we were free to starve." And I thought that was a powerful message, and I've never forgotten it. And here's a poster that you could also use as an example of Nazi propaganda, saying that, we have provided jobs and bread. And after the Great Depression, there was nothing more that Germans wanted than secure jobs and food on the table. Delivering popular policies. Here's a picture of the Nazi youth marching with their spades on their shoulders, and here's a picture of men getting ready to build one of the first of the autobahns. Popular policies, delivering jobs. But popular policies were also to do with Germany recovering, Germany asserting itself on the world stage again. And here we have the troops marching back into the Rhineland. Here we have German troops being greeted by the crowds in Vienna after the Anschluss. And this enthusiasm was genuine. Here we have a crowd in Vienna after the Anschluss listening to a speech from Hitler. And here perhaps the greatest propaganda picture that the Nazis ever took, a picture of Hitler in Paris with the Eiffel Tower behind him after the fall of France. I don't think in 1940 there was a more popular politician amongst his own people than Hitler. I really, really don't. And one of the most conclusive sources for evidence for me actually comes from the Social Democrats, who were still operating underground in Germany as well as in exile. And every piece of research that they did, every report that they sneaked out of Germany indicated that the popularity for Hitler was genuine. It really, really was. And so we have propaganda, fear, and popular policies, all helping to keep the Nazis in power and in control. But for me, I think popular policies and successful policies did more than anything else. I hope that was interesting. More important, I hope it was useful to you. But as always, I thank you for listening, and I give you that reminder to check out my History Made Easier website. Cheers.